Welcome back, everybody, to the Jurassic Park Podcast, otherwise known as the Titan Watch Podcast. And we are here to discuss Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, Season 2, Episode 9, Ends of the Earth. We are getting to the end of the series here with 2 final episodes to discuss. And man, they are fantastic. So, Tom, how are you? And are you ready to discuss the 9th episode of this season?
I am. I feel like you actually have the advantage at this point. A, because you've actually rewatched it, but B, because you watched it much more recently than me. Whereas my brain is now like, I watched that episode a couple of months ago. What actually happened in it?
I know, that was my problem. So much has happened, and the way we're recording these every few weeks or whatever, we didn't get them all done right after watching them, so it's kind of been spread out. So I felt the need
why are you exposing us, Brad? We could play it off and be like, yeah, we recorded all of this well in advance. We were really organized. We edited everything on time.
Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. I got to tell people the truth. So I just rewatched these as well because we're only talking about episode 9, but I really wanted to get refreshed because it's a big bang at the end here, and I really wanted to get back into those feelings. And like I said in a previous episode, I had caught up on watching a bunch of the MonsterVerse movies again after watching the series, and I actually I finally finished that out. I rewatched Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, and then I went back and watched a few scenes again from Skull Island. So yeah, we're gonna be all ready to talk about that.
You experienced the most important character in the MonsterVerse. You got to spend time with Trapper.
You do? Hey, man, I love Trapper. Trapper's great. I do want more of Trapper. But let's talk about episode 9. So at the end of episode 8, which one was that? They were fighting on the beach, right? That was Titan.
Yeah.
The Titans were fighting on the beach. And then they went on the chase and left that beach in Australia. And now the chase is on in episode 9. And we go directly, they're going direct course for Skull Island, and that's cool because I'm so excited to finally get to Skull Island and to have a good amount of stuff there. We spent a little bit of time there, but it's nice to kind of get back in there and be there for real this time. So we learned that Apex is denying any part of this operation that happened in Australia. There's an aircraft. We find out there's an aircraft in the airspace of Skull Island, and they're kind of unsure, at least on they're on the Monarch base right now, Outpost 18. They're unsure of what's going on, who's a part of all of this. And then we get Lee questions if Kate and Kentaro went with Trissop's people or if they were taken, because they don't know. They have no idea what's going on. And when we get to Skull Island, we see Titan X climbing up this spire, roaring at Godzilla. Godzilla kind of holds off, stops, and they kind of question if maybe Godzilla did what he needed to do. Godzilla leaves. And Lee kind of turns on to the idea of trying to figure out a way to get the Titan home, and also go get Kate and Kentaro on Skull Island. So what did you think about this whole kind of opening sequence here?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was sat during it and I was like, okay, are they about to make Godzilla and Kong meet earlier than GVK? Because if they do that, it kind of breaks the timeline a bit. So I thought it was smart that they did this thing where Godzilla actually got Titan X back to where it was meant to be, and then he kind of went back off to go and just be a chill guy and get some sleep. That's sort of exactly what I would imagine Godzilla to do. So I thought that was quite a cool way of playing it out, I suppose. I also like that immediately we've got the storm around Skull Island again. I know that's obviously... I think I spoke about this in an earlier podcast and was like, oh, it shows the storm as in the storm in GVK. No, there's the storm front around Skull Island, and then the inside tends to be calmer, so we're still getting that consistency here. But I just think it's such a cool visual, so I always like whenever they go to Skull Island and there's the storm around it. And that shot that you reference of Titan X on the kind of rocky pillar looking out at Godzilla is a very, very cool shot.
It is so cool. Yeah, man. This series, especially these final 2 episodes, there's so many moments where I'm like, again, I can't believe this is television and I'm watching this like in this way. It's so darn cool.
Yeah.
But let's go out to Skull Island, and Kate and Kentaro and Isabel are on this helicopter over Skull Island. Kentaro's like, gets into this little debate with Kate, and he's basically saying like, I'm not alone. Like, I'm here with
Kentaro is
Isabel,
whipped at this point. He is whipped.
Yeah, just a little bit. And Kate's like, why are you on their side? And he is playing coy, like he says I'm not alone, but he doesn't say like I'm here with Isabel, like even though he's sitting right next to her. He's like,
Yeah.
he's kind of cagey about that. And then
My
like,
man knows how to play hard to get.
and when she asks like whose side he's on, he just kind of says like, like he doesn't like give it in. Like, so he's not, I don't know why he's so cagey about his plan. We get to understand like more about his plan
really starts to
in
annoy me
one of these
at this
episodes.
point.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But Monarch arrives on the shore, and I started to think about like
Yes.
the practicality of this, because in Skull Island in the movie, it's like so difficult. They make it like seem so difficult to get to this place. And
Yeah.
I feel like since then we've kind of just been going back and forth. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like, we could just go in whenever we want. Like, it's all good. But
I mean, to be fair, so this whole moment, I really like this because they're using ribs, which are rigid hull inflatable boats, and they're like something that's used in the military quite often, basically. But I think it's quite cool that Outpost 18 is kind of already inside the storm front, so you kind of get the sense that they've used that to get through the storm, and then they're deploying the boats afterwards, which is maybe different to Kong Skull Island, where they've just got this old container ship that would probably get destroyed if they tried to take it through the storm. So I think they kind of explain that a bit. But the thing I really love here is when we get this moment of these two boats coming in, and you see like the first boat with a bunch of Monarch soldiers on it, and they're kind of like scanning the scenery as they're going along the water, and then the second boat with shore and everything else, and then they get on the shore. Not the man Lee Shore. The shore is in the beach. Yeah, and you basically have got Lee Shore leading a modern group of Monarch soldiers, and I just thought that was really cool. Like, that's something I feel like we've not seen in the show up until this point, but it really feels like this episode kind of snaps it into, okay, now we've got quite a competent Monarch again, who have got this group of soldiers who are going to go out on this mission and do stuff with them. And through that, it sets up a couple of potential, don't laugh at me choking, it sets up a couple of potential characters that I think they could potentially build out in subsequent series as well. So you start to get more of that kind of regular cast, and those characters who sort of fulfill that military side of Monarch that you see with Barnes and the Colonel in King of the Monsters.
Yeah, I wrote that down, that they kind of just go out there with a handful of Monarch agents, and it did make me laugh because everybody's decked out in like their normal clothes. Like Tim's out there in his like khakis and like flannel, and everybody's just wearing normal clothes. And then here's Lee decked out in full Monarch like military attire. He's part of the crew. He's ready to go. So it shows that he's a different kind of guy, I guess. He's been in these fun shirts this whole time. Chill guy, but now it's a completely different experience. He's not a chill guy anymore. So
he is not. He is Lee ready for combat. And I made a note that it was really cool seeing Tim leading the ground team as well. Like, he actually has like his belt on. He's got a handgun. I was like, Tim is my boy now. He's no longer timid Tim in the basement office. He has grown.
He really has. He's had a fantastic arc. I really love Tim, but he doesn't lose any of that fun. He still maintains his character, which is great. So we do cut back to October 21st, 1958. Yes. Again, here we are
in the territory of Papua in New Guinea.
Yes, and I was going to make a reference to Back to the Future because that date ties into Back to the Future again too. So like, we've talked about it a lot. All these little references that like Stranger Things did so well, and we're doing them here too. We're tapping into
Wait,
this
Stranger
time
Things did it
travel,
well.
huh?
Stranger
No,
Things did it well.
I don't know. Is that what I said? But we're doing it well here.
Yeah.
I said Stranger Things did, but we're doing it well here.
You
And,
did. You said Stranger Things did so well, and I was like,
oh, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong. Yeah. But we're tapping into that, and I love seeing that. I don't know if it's on purpose or what, but it feels purposeful. But we're in this territory here, and you know, we're kind of see them like going up on this shore, walking around, and Bill's like talking about a Titan network like may actually exist. We might be able to find this. And Keiko and Bill, they show up to this random building, and it's raining, and they just want to get married. That's it. They just want to get married.
I'm
Some random
it's
guy,
like a registry office or something.
I don't know what it was, but this guy's like, yeah, I guess I'll marry you. Sure. Okay. And this was great. I loved this sequence. Keiko has like really beautiful vows, like has so much to say, so much love to offer. And Bill's like quite literally speechless, not in like a, wow, you took my breath away, but like more in like a, I don't know what to say. I didn't prepare anything.
Yeah.
So like that kind of made me laugh. But eventually the guy pronounces them man and doctor wife. So they made a point to make sure that she was the doctor in that point of the episode. But yeah, I love this sequence. It was very nice, and I love these little flashes of their life. And this was not necessarily like one that, you know, it didn't relate to, like I was saying, maybe referencing Back to the Future. It didn't relate to anything time travel-y. It didn't relate to really finding any monsters of any sort. It was just a nice, you know, slice of life, and I thought it was very nice. So,
I have a slight confession. I feel like this might get me kicked off of this podcast right now.
Uh-oh.
I've only seen Back to the Future once.
All right, bye. You kidding me?
Welcome to the Jurassic Park Podcast.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, he's back.
Come on, dude. Marty McFly's here. He's wondering why have you not watched Back to the Future more than once? Come on, dude. Broke my toy doing that. But you gotta watch it.
I'm dying. Like his visor just flew off.
I know, it just flew off. It's like a neck piece that goes down like for safety. But yeah, so it clips.
Is that him in the hazmat suit? That's really sick, to be fair. That's really
this
cool.
is him as Darth Vader. He's got his Walkman in his hand here. He's got a hairdryer. He's pretending to be Darth Vader so he can scare George McFly. But I love this. He's got his headphones on. But yes, so Back to the Future aside, it's a great sequence. But we go back to Skull Island, and Isabel, Kate, and Kentaro, they're now in an old Monarch base. And you know,
so I want to jump in on this. Because I love this kind of stuff where there's like little bits of storytelling, and the fact that there's an old Monarch base here, we don't get any reference to it, but it immediately made me wonder if this was part of Dr. Brooks's return to the island. So we know that sometime between the events of Kong Skull Island and then King of the Monsters, Brooks returned to the island at some point. So I just love the idea that maybe at some point in time, this facility that eventually got ran down and decrepit was actually the facility that Brooks was using during that mission.
Maybe we do learn a little bit about this base later on, I think, but not a lot, not in a joking way. But yeah, that would be cool, because I'm not going to pretend to know anything about the history of any of this stuff, but somebody will call me out in the comments. But yeah, that would be cool if that was true. So Isabel has set up this entire like underground base here. There's a lot of people. She's got a big crew, and she wants to basically open a rift and visit Axis Mundi. She's got a business plan here. I don't know what it is, but you know, at this point, not revealing too much, but she's got a business plan. And oh wait, I just moved my thing. Hold on. Yeah, just sorry.
Hey, I mean, I
moved,
can jump. I was going to say I can jump in on this bit. Like,
no,
there's
I moved my notes, but I was like trying to make my notes in a different place, and then I moved them too far, and I couldn't see them
oh my
anymore.
gosh.
But no, she says basically like, what if somebody had an illness and wanted to spend a week or a month in Axis Mundi and come out and maybe find a cure? What if somebody wanted to visit the future? So there's some talk about that as well, and Kate's like freaking out. She's like, you want to exploit Axis Mundi as your own personal time machine? I'm like, yes, dude, please. So Kate's basically imploring Kintaro, though, at this point, like, whatever is happening here won't bring Dad back. So go ahead, go off on this.
Yeah,
this...
I mean, so it's interesting because Isabel says that this is basically like going to the moon, which is quite fascinating, because obviously that's drawing comparison to a massive act of human exploration, which I find really interesting. And I mean, her argument about being able to time travel to access medication, visit the future, etc., you can sort of see it from an ethical standpoint in terms of what she's coming out with. But what this all made me think, okay, is does the Axis Mundi eventually become, or is it somehow used as a part of the technology that's in the Apex monorail that we see in Godzilla vs. Kong? Because we know that that monorail can go from like Florida to Tokyo in ridiculously fast amounts of speed, and it almost like hovers. So I wonder if they're using Axis Mundi technology as a part of that and kind of harnessing the different portals to enable them to get across the planet so quickly.
Oh.
So just some potential food for thought there.
I love that.
There you go. But the other thing I really loved here, and you will get to hold your prop up in a minute, I promise, is the fact that I loved that basically the story that Kintaro is going on here kind of parallels the story that Kate goes through in season 1, where season 1 is kind of Kate going through the motions and the emotions of dealing with the loss of her father, in terms of the fact that he's gone missing and she's trying to work out what's happened. She's sort of plunged into this different world. And now Kintaro is on that trajectory, but it's almost a parallel of what happens when you get plunged into kind of the good world with Monarch and people who are well-intentioned, admittedly, although they don't always show it in the first season, versus what happens when you're plunged into that world with somebody like Isabel at the reins, who isn't nearly as positively intentioned.
I love that, man. Yeah, I have some other stuff to talk about that. I don't know if it's this episode or the next. I forget. They kind of blend together since I just watched them back to back. But let me talk about this prop real quick. So, I was talking about Back to the Future, that October 21st date. So in Back to the Future 2, they go to October 21st, 2015. So that's where they go in that movie. And the one thing that happens is Marty walks by. Have you ever seen Back to the Future 2?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. He's shaking his head. Yeah, I'm not sure, though. I don't know if I believe it. But there's a store there.
I've seen all three of them, because there was a massive drop-off in quality with the third one, right?
No, not really.
Oh, no.
Shut up. No. But there's a store there, and Marty goes in and he buys the Gray's Sports Almanac, which I actually have right here. And I've got the Blast from the Past bag. I've got the Gray's Sports Almanac.
Has this just become a show and tell now?
Yeah, it's a show and tell. So the Gray's Sports Almanac, which is what he picks up, and he wants to just place a couple bets. He just wants to make some money. What's wrong with that? And Doc freaks out at him. He's like, I did not invent the time machine, to exploit as your own personal gain, whatever he says. He says something very similar to what's exactly happening here. Kate has that same kind of reference. Cool. So I thought, I don't know if that was on purpose, but it feels very purposeful to me. They're exploiting a time machine. You've got that date there. It just felt, on the nose.
No, that's cool. I like that. And I will just say at this point as well, for those of you who are thinking this is a Jurassic Park podcast, why are we talking about Monarch, Legacy of Monsters? We feel you, which is why we're also bringing Back to the Future in, just to dilute it even further, so you no longer know what you're going to get on any given occasion. So enjoy.
at least Back to the Future is a Universal property, so there's that. Does tie in. And hey,
True.
Kong, there's a Kong ride at Universal, so it's all part of the same umbrella. But yeah, so we go back to the Monarch crew, and Keiko wonders, how Shaw got the tracking device on Titan X. They're walking through the jungle, I think, at this point. And he's like, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of confused at how it worked too. And I think he said like something along the lines of like, I only just remembered like how I did this, how this happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was kind of funny because we did talk about like, why doesn't he remember these things right away? And it became clear he kind of stated it right there. He's like, I only just recently remembered that this happened anyway. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so Tim is there as well. There's like two separate groups. There's like Keiko and Lee, and then Tim and May, I guess, and everybody else. Tim's comically tripping over vines in the jungle. Oh, it wasn't a vine. It was some sort of creature that rips up agents into the trees.
Yes.
Very much in a similar kind of fashion to like Kong Skull Island. May's getting grabbed.
I literally
Tim's
wrote
saving
this.
her.
I was like, yeah, it feels exactly like in Kong Skull Island. It's the mother long legs. And it feels exactly like the sequence with the mother long legs, but also the creature here, the fauna. What I really like is it feels like it's got a similar evolutionary tract to the mother long legs. So from a cryptozoology standpoint, I really like when they make the animals on this island feel coherent, and I think that's what they've done throughout this second season. Obviously, we've seen quite a bit of fauna from Skull Island. And it all feels like it's in keeping with the design from that initial film, which is really cool.
Yeah, and they're all very like nature-based in that way, right?
Yes.
There's vines, there's bamboo, there's like thorns and things, there's grass all over a lot of these creatures.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are very like nature-based in that way too. So in this whole commotion though, like May gets saved by Tim, and then Keiko and Lee, they run off into like a big cave.
Big up Tim, by the way, having his hero moment.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of those here. So, so Lee's trying to get a hold of Tim on the walkie to find out where he is. He's not getting through to him. But Lee and Keiko, they want to find the rift, and they're like, let's leave Tim and May to find the Titan, and we'll go do this other stuff. So, yeah, that's where that ends up. Anything else there that caught your eye or no?
No, let's go back to the Monarch bunker.
We're going back underground here. Kate uses the Dad wouldn't have wanted us to be this way, or wouldn't wanted us to see us this way. And Isabel gives Kentaro like an out. She's like, yeah, go ahead. You can go with Kate if you want. It's fine. But Kentaro's like, nah. Kate, you go. So they ended up escorting Kate out. Isabel opens this big door at one point, and I forget what happened at that point, but there's a big helicopter also that's cutting. We get to see this as well. It's playing like the screams of like titans or monsters of some sort on the massive screens or speakers.
So what they're doing, they're using the Skullcrawler sounds. So it's the Skullcrawler from it's the Skullcrawler from Skull Island, and they say that they've learned that if they play them, it distracts Kong.
Yeah. Because Kong hears it. Kong hears it and whips around and is like, "Oh, who's calling me? Who's calling me?" But that was cool. Yeah, I love that we're getting Kong here, and is going to have a pretty prominent part here towards the end of this show. But
So I've made a bunch of notes from some of the dialogue here, and also a bit in a moment as well, which we'll talk about. But it's interesting here that obviously Kentaro chooses to stay with Isabel, which is a bit grim in itself, because it says sort of the direction that this character's going on. But also Isabel talks about the fact that she's been working on an entry craft to get them into the Axis Mundi. So I wonder if this is going to be also the origin of the HEAV, which we see in Godzilla vs. Kong, which is the vehicle that's used to go into... I can't actually remember... The Hollow Earth, there we go. The vehicle that's used to go into the Hollow Earth. I can't remember what that place is called. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I mean, we talk about the Axis Mundi so much, that like you kind of forget that the Hollow Earth is like the main thing of the films. So...
Yeah. But it's interesting because we know that there's kind of this relationship here where she's working separate to her father. She doesn't really get on with him. And what we're seeing with Isabel isn't really a true interpretation of Apex. But it does make me wonder if at some point down the line, we might see her father suddenly appear and sort of like steal everything that she's been doing. That kind of thing. I feel like it's definitely on a potential trajectory for that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. We cut back to Tim and May, and Tim's like, he's leading the charge. He's not going to leave anybody behind. I think he's kind of like a jerk to one of the guys. And
I made a note. His dynamic with the soldier. This soldier's like, yeah, dude, we got to get out of here. We got to get back to the boat. We got to get reinforcements. And Tim basically shuts him down, and he's like, I'm in charge. You can do what I say. And the soldier's just like, all right. And then I think Tim's like, good. And then he salutes him.
Yeah. So he's like very apologetic about this because like it's not very Tim-like, but it's great to see him growing as a character and being more confident in that kind of task. So really love that. But we go back underground again. There's a lot of cutting around. And there's that doorway that I was talking about opens up to this like massive overlook over the valley. What do you got?
Yes. I want to hit you with a line of dialogue that we get during this because I think it's hilarious. Okay. It is peak commentary on Nepo baby entitlement, which is Isabel saying that this whole operation has been funded using her trust fund.
Yeah, it has. Because you wonder, like, where does this come from? I mean, she said it in an earlier episode that, like, my dad bought me this place, but, like, he has nothing to do with this, I swear. I swear to God, he's not involved at all. But, yeah, it's going to take a lot of funds to get through.
I was just like, that's peak commentary right there on the fact that this, like, villain arc is just some rich Nepo baby who's bored, so has decided to go and do this instead.
Yep. Well, she wants to use this as their Cape Canaveral. She mentions, like NASA missions and like, how do you think they decided like who would stand on the moon first and stuff? And she compares Kintaro to Neil Armstrong, and like, they knew they had to choose the right person to set feet on the moon first. And it wasn't about like, oh, who's the best pilot? It was about like, we just got to get the right person for this mission, and she knows that Kintaro is that person. And she does also reveal, though, at the same time, that she brought Titan X here for the Rift, but also to take Kong out, because they can't like do their work there with Kong just lumbering around this place. So Kintaro gets a little upset. He's mad that like Isabel basically lied to bring him here, about bringing Titan X here and all that. So. Yeah,
I like that reaction to it as well because it feels like it calls back to that moment where he is drawing Kong, and if you think about it, that's probably one of the few moments he had before his father passed away where he kind of got to experience the sense and wonder of the Titans. So I like that he sort of sees Kong in that different perspective, and then this sort of shows you her true colours. But I also think it's really interesting because Isabel has a line where she's talking about Titan X and she says it's ours. So she's basically talking about, again, the use of animals and the objectifying of them. And it really does a great job, I think, of driving through that plot thread because you can kind of see how in a world where ultimately we end up using a skull of Ghidorah down the line to make a mech suit, you can kind of see how we get to that world because there's all of these people who really don't care about the Titans as animals and just think they have ownership over them and that's it, they're property to be owned.
Yeah, it's rough to know that there's those kinds of people out there, but hey, that's part of the story. So we find that Titan X arrives at the egg, and the agents throw Kate into a chopper, and they then deploy a bunch of gas on Titan X and knock it out, dude. It was pretty brutal. But then Kate's in this chopper, and I think they said something interesting. I wasn't sure what to make of it, but for some reason the chopper, like person in the chopper is like, Outpost 18, we're cleared for takeoff. I was like, why? Do you know why they would have said that? Like, are they're in cahoots there?
No
or like,
idea.
I didn't
I
really
wonder if
understand.
maybe they were sent in to rescue Kate. Like, that's the only thing I could
But I
guess.
think it's the same chopper that they took there, so why, I
Yeah.
don't know. So I really don't know why.
Unless
why
they're,
that was said.
they might be working under the guise of being Apex official in speech marks.
Maybe, yeah. That could be. But yeah, she escapes. She ends up escaping the chopper, so all good there. But cutting back to Keiko and Lee, they spot some bad guys out in the jungle, and they're called back for like phase 2 of the plan. We don't really know what that is, I guess, but they get into their jeeps and whatever, and they get out of there. So Keiko questions, like, she's starting to get pretty emotional about stuff. She's like, what the heck was Bill doing out here on Skull Island? Like, why? And she's questioning again, like, why would he leave everything, after she was gone? And she says something along the lines of like, well, what changed after I was gone? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
And Lee gets emotional as well. And he's like, Keiko, like, everything changed. Everything changed once you were gone. So nice emotional beats there. I appreciated that. Anything there for you?
I just made a note that it breaks my heart that Billy never found out Keiko was still alive. Because what you got to think about is, I think, well, not at this moment in time, but you've just got to think Lee knew. Like, this whole time Lee's known that she was still alive, and Billy lived the rest of his life without the knowledge that she had survived, which is just really sad.
Yeah. Because we'll talk about it at some other point. but we go back to Kazakhstan, 1959. This is post Keiko's fall into the rift there, and Bill is like hearing the echoes of Keiko falling and stuff. He's standing at a train station and kind of just remembering these moments. And Lee kind of snaps him out of it. He's like, "Hey, we got this train. We got to catch it in 10 minutes." And Bill's like, "No, I can't. Like, she might still be out there. Like, I can't leave without her." And maybe she fell into like a little, ledge or something. Yeah. Maybe she's just safe right there and she could be fine.
Maybe she fell into a portal to another world and we need to go and rescue her. Like,
yeah. But Lee's like, "No, that's not true. She's not fine. She's gone. Let it go." Bill's blaming himself for like actually letting go. And Lee is like, it was an interesting conversation because I think it was like this. It was probably like an inner monologue kind of thing where Lee was like going back and forth. He's like, "I told you, I'm blaming you basically. I told you to listen to me and you didn't listen to me." But then he kind of switches to like Keiko and like, talks about her a little bit and then switches back. And so it was kind of interesting. And he ends up saying, he like leaves this scene by saying like, it's going to haunt us for the rest of our lives, which is, pretty true. So for them,
it's pretty brutal, isn't it? And when you think about it, I mean, it's interesting actually saying that because it does set them both on their trajectories, I suppose, where Billy's pursuit of the monsters leads him to Skull Island where he dies, and Shaw's pursuit of just all of this stuff leads him to get lost in time and now leads him to a world where when he's kind of old and grey and you would think he should be retired and living a happy, chilled out life as a chill guy, he's not. He is just sat kind of, well, he's not sat. That's the point. He's not sat. He's still up and at them, trying to deal with these monsters, which I think says a lot.
It's really hard when I have to write my chill guy notes and have to go all the way back to the top. But yeah, so we're in a different part of Skull Island. We see Titan X is strapped down, knocked out. Like, Isabel wants to ramp up the aggression on Titan X, basically using what they were kind of using, what Apex, I guess, was doing, and ramping up this aggression a little bit. And Kentaro's feeling things there, and I think she's basically like, don't have any sympathy for these creatures. They like killed your father and stuff like that. So yeah, but Kate,
it's interesting because there's a real plot thread throughout this entire season about humanity and about empathizing with creatures. And that's sort of a recurring thread, I think, is the idea that, these things aren't human, they don't have emotions, etc., so you don't have to feel sympathy for them. And I think they do a really good job of weaving that into the story that's unfolding here with Kentaro and Isabel.
Yeah, I think this entire show is about these monsters being connected with each other and having feelings and
Yeah,
understanding what the others are going through in a way, and also Kate, having that sympathetic relationship with monsters as well and understanding them, feeling them, hearing them. I mean, when she heard the sonar or whatever under the water, it just sounded like fear and sadness and kind of like,
yeah,
that kind of tone. So like, yeah, it's all about that, I think, for the humans and the monsters. But Kate actually finds a radio sort of thing in the bunker, tries
yeah,
to contact some people, and they ended up finding the bad guys here found a tracker on Titan X, so they know all about that. So,
yeah,
but May and Tim, they notice that the tracker stops working. And Tim's getting some chatter on the walkie, and it's Kate. We find out, she actually got the thing working. And Kate's like, "Hey, Kentaro's with them, not like with them, but like with them. Like he is part of their crew."
mm,
And mentions that they need to find this valley. And Tim's like, "We gotta roll out here before Khan gets there and stuff." So
yeah.
anything there
But
that
there's an
speaks to.
interesting detail here. Yeah, so she mentions it's no Monarch base, and Tim then knows where it is. So I'm like,
Mm.
does that mean that Tim has been on Skull Island at some point in the past as well? Like, has some of his research, some of Hiroshi's research, involved actual time spent on the island?
We may never know.
No.
We
Thanks,
may
Brad.
never
That
know.
was the answer I wanted.
But Keiko and Lee, they are out walking in the jungle, and they come
Yeah.
across a very smoky area, and
They
I
come across
start
some big bones.
some big bones, and I start freaking out, dude, because I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
"Oh my God, we're
Can
here!
we
We're
just?
at the Skull Island
I'm gonna
scene."
self-filter this. I will self-filter,
Thank
but
you.
the sentence I have in my notes in all capitals is so cool seeing the Bone Valley again. Holy sausage!
I love that. Yes, that's exactly my sentiment as well. I couldn't believe they found this spot from Skull Island with the bones, and I think
Yeah,
it looked pretty good. Like it was a really good
yeah, they
representation.
did
Like
a
a
good
lot of
job with it.
times, yeah,
Yeah,
the translation doesn't work well from like TV to movie or movie to movie, whatever. But this looked really good. And Lee notices like old bullets and says like something
I
very
love
bad
that
went
so
down here.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and Keiko, she looks down and she finds Bill's old camera. So yikes, yikes. She finds
what's
his
the
camera.
issue with this, Brad? What's
Well,
the just go on? What's the issue?
let's save it for the end. We'll save some conversation for the end there. But she finds his old camera,
Okay,
and she's like, you know what? I think this is where he died. And she's even
yeah,
more angry at Bill. She trusted him, and he threw it all away for what? Like she kind of like yelling about
yeah,
this, and she's just like falling deeper and deeper into like you know, not hatred, but like just anger as far as like
frustration. Yeah,
what is role in all of this was, and leaving
yeah.
behind her kid and stuff like that. So yeah, it's tough, but we do cut.
Yeah.
We go ahead. You have something before I change the scene?
Yeah, I was going to say, I just think it's a wonderful full circle moment for the show and the film. Like, I think you don't get it often where you get a show that then brings you back to a space where
Hmm.
something has happened in a film. Obviously, Camp Cretaceous and Chaos Theory would be the exception to that. But I don't
Yeah.
think you see it a lot of the times where you go back to that environment. And I think it's such a nice way of connecting the fact that Keiko's story is ongoing to the fact that this is where Billy's story ended. Like there's something about that finality and her being in the space where that finality occurred that I think is very, very powerful.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up. I didn't know what year it came out, but 2017, that's when they made that
Mm.
sequence in Skull Island, filmed out in Hawaii, right? And
I think some of that still exists, by the way. I think like the big
mhm,
Triceratops skull is still at Koala Ranch. That was such a bad
mouthful.
pronunciation, but it's definitely still there.
Yeah, and not that I think that they filmed there. Maybe they did because some of the sequences
I
look
mean,
so
it's good
beautiful in
enough
the
that you
show.
think it was. Yeah,
Yeah, but but yeah, it's great. It was really great and emotional and a wonderful sequence. But we cut to Reading, Pennsylvania, 1968. Bill is teaching.
Yeah.
He's at the head of a little auditorium there, and he's teaching cross-circuited quantum entanglements. He's got a beard. I was like, dude, he's got a beard. We're getting closer.
Yeah.
He's not John Goodman just yet, but he's
You're
he's got
like,
a beard.
is that a
at least.
blood stain on his shirt or?
And he, he's talking about these like kind of portals and rifts into different
Yeah.
things and with the quantum entanglements, and he's like, creatures exist here and there, and the class that he's teaching, like, what do you mean, like Bigfoot? They're like not taking him too seriously
Yeah.
because he's, even says it in Skull Island that he's he was seen as a crackpot, a week ago or whatever. So people don't really fully buy into him. So he's like, yeah, like Bigfoot, like, and what if it was like, he could go here, but then move and go over here. And then, they kind of compare it to like a subway station. Like there's different subway stations around that he could traverse. And I think it was a great way of explaining that. But he does get a little sidetracked because somebody shows up in the back of the class and it's Suzuki. So he's like, class dismissed. Everybody go home. He ends up catching up with Suzuki and he has a suitcase. There's something in there. And Suzuki's already like angry. He's got a bit of an anger to him right now. He's like kind of like talking to Bill and like he's like, have you even retrieved any of these things? And we're not getting any kind of insight into what they're talking about really.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of like it's happening so fast. I had to rewatch this sequence like a bunch of times to really kind of get all of those details. But Billy's like, no, the map's not done yet. Like I haven't retrieved any of them. And Suzuki's like, no, the data here doesn't support your theory. It's not working. Whatever you're doing is not working. And in that meantime, they're arguing about this, and this device falls out of the luggage there, and it's like this little metallic kind of honestly it looks like a bomb or something like that. And he's like Suzuki's like, Bill, you gotta just go home to your son. And this is where we start to find out like more about like why, right? Like because we've wondered so long, like why wouldn't he, like what is his problem? Like I've had a grudge against him too. I'm not feeling the same anger as Keiko, but like I understand that anger because like why haven't it doesn't make any sense to me really. Not that it totally does, but like I think there's little tidbits here that make you believe it. And he's like, I can't. Our work's not done yet. I can't do it. So Suzuki leaves it though on this thing because he's like, you already lost Keiko and Lee. Don't ignore the family that you have chasing the one you lost. That was a beautiful sentiment there. So get to the family you still have before it's too late. So I love that.
I think it's really cool. I don't have anything to add, but I am gonna propel us forward a little bit and then I'll hand back to you. So we then get to see sort of basically his probes from. So I think at this point we then go to what is basically a lake on Skull Island, and it's revealed that this lake is another Axis Mundi portal. And here you see probes from Madagascar, you see probes from New Guinea. So these are the things that have already been referenced by Bill at this point. And actually they've ended up here on Skull Island. One thing that I love that I wanted to mention here when moving us forward to it is the fact that we get the reveal that Billy went to Loch Ness at some point. And I just think that's such a fun way to maybe suggest that Nessie is a Titan as well. I thought that was so cool.
I love that. Yeah. So they find like these gleaming devices near the shore, and they find a bunch of them. And I did write down the dates. They do say like William Randa on them, and they one says 1966 Madagascar, 1971 New Guinea, 1968 Loch Ness, and 1972 Kazakhstan. So he's going all over the place, like throwing these things all over, and somehow they've ended up here. So they realized that he threw them into all these rifts around the world, and they ended up here. And the best part,
I think they say it's like oh god.
No, you can say. I think I know what you're gonna say.
I was going to say they basically say it's like a Grand Central for the riffs, which is
Yeah,
cool. Which
yeah.
again, to give you another Primeval reference that you won't understand, Brad, it was very cool because in Primeval season 1, there's a concept that's the spaghetti junction of anomalies, and so anomalies in the show are basically the way that dinosaurs come through time. Okay, and they go through an anomaly and they find that the world on the other side is just an interchange of loads of different anomalies. So it's letting dinosaurs travel from one through to the other and vice versa. So I was just like, cool, it's that same kind of concept if this is the spaghetti junction for the Axis Mundi. And it kind of, I think, explains why Skull Island has got so much unique fauna, because it's not just the place where the skull crawlers are from that is passing them like onto the island. It's all of these other places as well where they might be stepping through from time and then coming onto the island. So I just think it feeds back into the unique geological nature of the island. Quite cool. And I'll now let you say the cool detail that you were going to say.
Well, I'll follow up your statement because I do wish we saw like Bigfoot like wandering around.
Yeah,
because it's that exact thing that they mentioned in the class. It's literally a subway, like Grand Central Station, and now you've got a subway here, and it's letting you off at different stops. But there's letters inside each one of these things.
Yeah, dude, this
it becomes
me
like
hard.
It was a very beautiful moment, and it turns out that they are his marriage vows that he didn't have the words for when they actually got married. And he basically reveals that he was looking for her the entire time, and he went to Skull Island to find the rift and to find her, and it was a beautiful moment, and I was really feeling it when they were. I think they were flashing back and forth at a lot of moments during this sequence as well, and you could just see the love from Bill. Like, they were showing like sequences where like Keiko wasn't really paying attention, or she was focused on other things, but he was just staring at her. You could see there's a great sense of love there, and I love that. And we zoom out of this little lake area.
Yeah.
And we do see that the water is very shimmery with riftiness.
It's the same like visual effect,
Yeah.
What I find so interesting about this, and I've got a note here that just says 10 out of 10, no notes, because I think they handled this so beautifully. And the way they compose this scene is really, really well done, because when you get that zoom out and the little rift energy, you get the key kind of choral notes of the Legacy of Monsters theme playing as well. So they match the score to the moment really well. And they kind of do that throughout the show. Whenever there's a really big emotional revelation, you suddenly get those key chords from the theme as part of the score. And I think it works really well here. But what I really love with this is it massively recontextualizes Billy's journey, because obviously in Skull Island you kind of get the sense from the way he's pitching it to the government that this is his last throw of the dice. He thinks that he's going to find something on Skull Island, and if he does, it will sustain Monarch, but there's no real guarantee. But obviously with this context, we kind of know that he's got this migration map. He's gone around and checked these other places and hasn't found these capsules. So the only place they can be is Skull Island. So it kind of reinforces the fact that actually he wasn't just going out on a whim and one really crazy idea. There was a real scientific basis for the reason he wanted that mission. And it wasn't about going to this island and finding these creatures. It was about rescuing Keiko. He just told the government what they needed to hear to fund the mission. And I really love that, because I feel like it really works and it really recontextualizes the character well. And you're about to be like, well, no, Tom, because actually there's this line of dialogue in the film that says this.
We'll get to that. But yeah, I don't want to. But underground, we're in that base, and Kentaro asks if they found Kate yet. They haven't found Kate. Titan X wakes up, and they fire these implants to anger the thing, and it works. And Kong's hearing it.
So she, at this point, Isabel's using synaptive connection to control Titan X directly, which again is the same technology used for Ghidorah. So it's just all kind of connecting, quite cool.
Yeah, this is just like when Cash was using the video game controller to control the dinosaurs, and then that's how we ended up with controlled dinosaurs. It was very similar. They just took that technology, Biosyn took it and grabbed it and went elsewhere.
It's a precursor. No. It's a precursor of what Serizawa's son does with the control for Mechagodzilla.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
not
what
cash.
it was.
We don't need cash. There's no cash here. We're a card-only establishment.
Yeah, and we do find out that the synaptic connection is stable, so it's actually working. And Kate's wandering around still. She finds the egg underground, and Kentaro finds Kate at the egg. And Kentaro's basically, she's like, "Why are you doing this again?" And he's like, "Because, like, I want to save him. So we have to save him." And I'm like, "Duh, time travel." Time travel. We've got it. This is it. We're going to save Dad. That's the plan. We're going to save Hiroshi. So that's the end of the episode there. But hey, I want to talk more about some of those connections with Skull Island. So like I said earlier, I went back and rewatched. I actually just rewatched some like key scenes from Skull Island just to refresh my memory. One thing that stood out.
Please tell me one of the key scenes. Well, wait, was one of the key scenes the heroic sacrifice with the grenades where he just then gets tail slapped?
I think that's after Bill dies, so I was like, forget it. But maybe it is, I forget. But I was skipping around just looking for basically Bill sequences. And one of the first ones that pops up is during like the opening credits, you see like an old ID of Bill, and it looks like it's like young John Goodman. It's definitely not this actor from this show. So I was laughing about this. At one point they say Monarch is so broke, so that's why they go to the senator to fund this trip, basically. But I found it interesting that he reveals to the senator that like the Castle Bravo tests were to kill something, and why are they revealing it to this guy? Like, it's interesting. This show has kind of portrayed the relationship of the government and the military as like Monarch works with them like already, and Monarch works with the military. So like, I found that interesting that it felt like there was no connection there. But he does state that. Go ahead.
This is not just me like explaining it away, although this is going to be me attempting to explain things away, I imagine. But not every senator has like intimate knowledge of what the military's doing if they're not on a committee that's specifically.
But why is he going? Why does he have to go to the senator? Is that like his last resort? Why couldn't? I guess
Well, so I can actually give you a real world example. Skinwalker Ranch and the kind of stuff around that was initially funded by a senator who was approached by the guy who opened it because the senator was known to have interest in the paranormal, like UFOs and that kind of thing. So I imagine it's that kind of situation where maybe this senator is slightly more open to this stuff than anybody else.
I like that maybe the history here is like, the senator maybe mentioned to Bill once, or not even to Bill, but he was like in a conversation.
He mentioned about Bigfoot.
He said something about Bigfoot, and like Bill's like, "Huh? What'd you say?" And he's like, "Hey, did you say something about Bigfoot?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Yeah, I like cryptids.
This is like giving me Fox Mulder. I'm rewatching. This is another crossover to another different podcast for you. But I'm rewatching season 1 of the X-Files at the moment, and that is literally Mulder to a T. Where like somebody will say something strange, and he's just like, "Hi."
He basically shows like a small interest in cryptids, but then. Bill becomes a crazy guy that knows way too much. It's like when somebody mentions Jurassic Park in public, and I'm like, should I say anything? Should I talk to this person? Because if I do, it's going to be embarrassing because I know too much. But they do mention that Harry Truman funded Monarch back in 1946. I don't know how well that checks out with all these dates and things. Probably doesn't, but... who knows? Brooks kind of, relies on this trip for like discoveries, resources, medicine, cure for cancer, stuff like that. But they also do blame the mission on like, hey, there's a Russian satellite or something that's going to go over there. So we got to find out what's there first. And at this point, I found it odd that like they had to get Tom Hiddleston, which I don't even know what the heck his name was. I don't know what his name is. I don't know what... Conrad? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what any of their names are in this movie, to be honest, other than Will Randa. I found it odd. I'm James Conrad. He gets this guy like to do all the things that like he's been doing for decades. Like, so I found that interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because of his older age that he's like, I need a guide here, but like, I found
No,
that interesting. What do you think?
It's because he doesn't have Lee to protect him. And he knows that in the past, when they went out to do these kinds of things, he needed Lee with him
I
in case
guess.
anything went wrong. So Comrade becomes the equivalent of Lee.
Okay, I can sympathize with that, but like I also do know that
Legendary,
like, we did see,
you can pay me real money anytime, like anytime.
we do know that like Bill went to like Santa Soledad like a bunch of times on his own, and like so he
Yeah.
was doing things on his own. So that's why I found it interesting. I'm no quips really. I'm just saying, or like issues, but
Well, I guess in like that situation as well, if he's already checked all the other points and he knows the canisters aren't there, he knows that they're going to be on Skull Island, but he also knows that's where the creatures are going to be at that point. So it kind
yeah.
of puts the emphasis on the fact that this is going to be the most dangerous part of the mission.
Yeah, they do make, this whole mission is about like surveying the island, right? And they do talk about these seismic
Yeah.
charges, revealing the subsurface, basically, that it's practically hollow on Skull Island. So that was
Yeah.
interesting. Bill mentions the Lawton a few times in this movie, being the only survivor. He's pretty angry about this, and he says he spent the last 30 years trying to prove what he saw that day. But he does say something
I
interesting
mean, that
here.
doesn't gel. That doesn't gel because we know that the formation of Monarch in the flashbacks,
Mhm.
when they get given bigger resources, is because of Keiko's photo of one of the Titans, or because of the photo of Titan X. So it's not as if he's having to prove it because there's a photo of another Titan.
Yeah, but the story checks out, right? Like he was on that ship, even in Monarch. I
Yeah.
think they talk about that. We go to that ship, right? Like we actually see that ship.
Yeah.
So it checks out a little bit. But what didn't fully check out was like he's like, we have to get home so we can send the cavalry. And I'm like, that doesn't feel like
Yeah.
Bill like wanting to send the military in to take these creatures out or
No.
something. So Brooks is talking about the Hollow Earth in the movie. He says Randa believed that it could be an emergence point for what lies below. I was like, there we go. That's checking
There we go.
the
Yeah.
check boxes there. Bill's taking photos of the skeleton graveyard, and he has his camera. So this is the camera part. The camera that Keiko finds.
Yeah.
She finds it in like a nice leather case. And it was not in a leather case in this scene in the movie, but he's got it out of a case, and he's got a massive flash on top of it, which is not on the camera in the show. And the thing was that the skull walker or crawler, whatever it's called, ate him. Straight up ate him. He's like, oh no. It was so unceremonious. It was just so, it was just a quick death, but it lingered on because the flash of his camera was, like flashing in the stomach of this creature.
Okay, but hear me out here, Brad, right? Like, as a photographer, you often have more than one camera on you in case you need to back up.
Fair. And we do know that he did have more than one camera. So I just found that interesting.
I joke. I think it is a continuity error.
Yeah.
Because a big part of the Skullcrawler's identity is the fact that their stomach is acidic as well. So there wouldn't have been anything left to fall onto the ground in terms of the camera or the leather case.
Because they do throw up the remains of one of the guys. So like you would, even if they did that, it would still probably be destroyed to some extent.
Exactly.
The dog tags weren't destroyed from that one guy, but everything else was. So they do kill that Skullcrawler too. So even if it did throw it up, it didn't do it in the movie, so that wasn't even a thing. But that was it. I kind of stopped it there because for a lot of the movie, like it starts as Bill's story, right? Like of getting to this island. But then for a good chunk of the movie, it's just like he's just another character. It's not really about him.
It's more just Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson's story, isn't it?
And then he just dies, right? Like so unceremoniously, like most of the characters in this movie. Which that's why I think it's such a great movie.
Really interesting. Yeah, I find it really interesting. I was going to say that Monarch chose, when they were constructing this series, they chose to build out that character. Because when you think about it, he is kind of used in that film for comedic relief as the crazy guy who nobody believes, and that's it. But what they've done over 2 seasons is actually really changed that character and made it a lot more deep than I think the film's ever intended.
Oh, for sure. And so that's why I went to the first episode of season 1, because we have that
Mm.
entire sequence that takes place on Skull Island from that moment in time, 1973, on Skull Island with Bill there as what's his name? John
John
Goodman.
Goodman,
He's
yeah.
like they had him
Yeah.
back. He looked great in the role, and it starts off with like video footage. So he has a video camera. We do know he has a video
Yeah.
camera. I don't remember if that was in the movie or not. I forget. But
I feel
I
like it
loved
was.
I love that like his video started off by saying like, "Hey buddy, you may never forgive me for what I took from you and stuff, but like I just want you to know that like hopefully this will help leave a legacy that'll make it all worth it." That was not an exact quote, but like,
Yeah.
I thought it was a very sweet sentiment, and knowing the context of everything that we've learned over the past 2 seasons
Yeah.
about Hiroshi and about leaving him behind, and then
Yeah.
him leaving this video, and the very first thing we see in the show is just him apologizing to Hiroshi
Yeah.
for leaving him behind
Well,
and for
and I
everything he
think
took
that's
from
really
him.
interesting. Right. I think that's really interesting because at this point in the mission, it's just him on his own. So
Mhm.
it's easy
Yeah.
to assume that this is before he's regrouped with the soldiers when the helicopters crash. So for him, he's basically at that point mentally, you're probably thinking the mission has screwed up. Like, we're in trouble here. Nothing is going the way it should. I'm probably going to die, but hopefully this will at least open the doors to getting his mother back. Like, that's
Mhm.
what I feel like he would be thinking at that moment. And in that
Yeah.
context, it does such a phenomenal job of recontextualizing his character and making a character who wasn't even the focus of the film probably one of the most interesting and well-developed human characters that has been in the Monsterverse to date. And I think that's such a testament to the quality of writing throughout this show.
Yeah, it felt very like impressive just rewatching those final 2
Mm.
episodes, rewatching some of those key scenes with him in Skull Island, and then that Monarch episode 1. And it was just like, wow, this is so great. I like you were saying, I can't believe they just
Mm.
plucked this guy out, made an entire backstory that's so emotional about this, and
Yeah,
it's like his legacy, which is the legacy
yeah.
of monsters. Like I kind of forgot about this opening sequence in a lot of ways, so I really appreciated it. But yeah, we end up
Monarch, Legacy of Bill.
yeah, we do know that he dropped the video camera. I don't know if he ended up putting the tape in there, so I'm not really sure what happened, but he throws the bag over the cliff. The bag floats away, and then we end up seeing the bag recovered in the Sea of Japan via a
Yeah.
fishing boat in 2013. So, and then we do get some of that. I think I don't remember how it was represented in this season, but there was like something within this season that showed
It's
like
the bag.
some
It's
uncovered.
in the archives because we see Apex steal it from the archives.
Yeah, what episode was that? That was that episode that started off with a bunch of flashing
I
to. Oh
don't.
yeah,
Do you
here it
know?
is, episode
No,
4.
actually, yeah. I don't
Episode
know if that
4.
was the bag because the bag's part of season 1, and Tim uses the bag at some point. I think the thing that they recover in episode 4 is the diary. I
But
don't know if the
it's in
diary
that
was in the
bag.
bag.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was.
so
I think it was
it
all
must
part of
be
that same
that.
thing.
Yeah. So it must be that they
Um,
steal it from
oh,
wherever
maybe
Tim had
not.
archived it after
Yeah,
season 1.
maybe not, because I think we're packing up an office, so I don't know, man. But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, that
This is
box
what
was at
happens
least
when we
uncovered
go
in
too deep.
2015. We go too deep, yeah.
Yeah.
But I just love that. I thought that was all very cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my little summary of Kong Skull Island Monarch season 1,
I love
episode
that.
1,
Thank you for taking
and
the time to rewatch it as well. I feel like you've made up for how long it took you to watch the second season of the show with all of these
yeah.
film references now.
This is the exact kind of context that I love. Like I love this stuff, and
Yeah.
I know like people in comments have like called out like, oh, that the we had talked early on about how consistent everything feels and how good everything feels, and I still will say that, even though I just kind of threw a
Yeah.
lot of that aside and said like, these things don't really connect in any way, but like the attempt is really there to make this cohesive story,
Mm.
and I think it still is beautiful and it still works really well. I did feel slight disconnect from like that character of Bill film versus TV show. Slight disconnect there. Obviously, they look very different, but like I was trying to rewatch those sequences as if he's looking for Keiko and that is his sole mission. And it's real sad that he never got to that point in the on the island where all the canisters came up. So real bummer. But anyway,
Just
any
wait
final things?
Yeah, I was going to say, just wait until he gets pulled back out of the Axis Mundi and they do a 180 on us and bring Randa back to life in the show.
They're gonna try, right? But it's the other one, the different Randa, Hiroshi.
Too many Randas.
Too many Randas, yeah. But anyway, that's episode 9. Thank you everybody for watching and listening to this one. Tom, where can people find you in the meantime?
You can find me at Tom_Jurassic online. And if you check out Jurassic Collectibles, a little while ago, by the time you're listening to this, there will be a review which I'm very excited about because I got one of my white whale Jurassic items, which is, and I can grab it because it's just down
It's
here.
this big, right? Isn't it a small, tiny little... Oh, no. Okay, it's bigger.
Yeah, it is the 1/18 scale die-cast Matchbox Jurassic Jeep, and it's the only one until we get the Hammond Collection one that has got the opening doors and everything.
Way too many Jeep coming. But yeah, dude, when you initially told me that, I was like confused because I thought you meant like a small Matchbox car.
That was so funny to me.
Like, that's your white whale?
This
Okay.
is what I love the most, is the fact that you can do this.
Don't
think you'll be able to do that on the Hammond Collection one.
You can use your gray Zach and Gray Hammond Collection figures and put them under the hood and change in the battery, right? Yeah.
Wait, we got Zach and Gray Hammond Collection figures? What?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you didn't get them?
You mean we're still getting Hammond Collection humans?
Yeah. Surprise. I talked to Mattel earlier today, and they said yes.
Oh my God. I mean, on your track record of talking to Mattel, I'm not convinced.
It's been great so far. It's been great. Anyway, if you want to hear more about Jurassic, go to JurassicParkPodcast.com. Find all of our episodes over there. And we do have main actual episodes of Jurassic, so please go find those. There's 436 or more. I don't even know there's more. But go find those. Go find me over on Letterboxd at Brad Jost. And go find my other show, Grim Grinning Host, talking about theme parks and pop culture, and the Forcecast, where we're really getting into The Mandalorian and Grogu, but also Maul Shadow Lord. Great show. I've been having a great time with that one, so looking forward to seeing how that one wraps up soon. As of this recording, it hasn't wrapped up. I don't know if it has when I post this. I forget. But yeah, anyway, thank you everybody for watching this. Stay safe, be kind, and as always, enjoy.
Bye.